Translator, Dark Angel. Editor, Henyi. Everyone stood speechless, their tongues tied. An opponent they had originally believed could only be handled through cunning schemes and circuitous tactics. Yet both Ling Han and Hu Nu had chosen to confront it head on. Moreover, this was not some reckless attempt to flaunt their might. The terrifying power they unleashed was displayed plainly before everyone's eyes. Ling Han raised his finger as though it were a divine sword unsheathed from the heavens, and slashed toward the skeleton monster. Shoo! Shoo! Sword rays burst forth in rapid succession, streaking through the air, accompanied by blazing white lightning. The power of thunder greatly amplified the might of the sword ray. One had to understand that Thunderclap Ninth Heaven was a mystical power, and Ling Han had already reached the stage of minor accomplishment in the body of lightning. How could its force possibly be weak? The skeleton monster trembled violently under the lightning's assault. The flashes of sword ray struck again and again, carving numerous slash marks across its bones. In theory, such a monster was absolutely not something a spiritual infant tier cultivator could injure. Yet, who could blame Ling Han for possessing battle prowess that had already surpassed the limits of the spiritual infant tier? Sword Ray combined with Thunderclap Ninth Heaven. His current combat strength was at least equivalent to 1 star of the deity transformation tier. Thus, after merely a dozen exchanges, the skeleton was cut apart by Ling Han and collapsed once more into the soil from which it had risen. Rest in peace, Ling Han murmured inwardly. A trace of displeasure stirred within him, for the Restore Heaven Academy actually used the corpses of powerful cultivators who had died who knew how many years ago as tools. From a certain perspective, what difference was there between them and the Thousand Corpse sect? Upon closer thought, there truly was not much difference between the two. The Thousand Corpse sect sought to transform every living being in an entire realm into corpse soldiers, while the 5 great sects intended to refine them all into an alchemical pill. Both desired to extinguish all life. In that case, which of them could truly claim the mantle of righteousness? They were birds of the same feather. Ling Han bent down and picked up the strange stone. As expected, it could not be stored within the Black Tower or inside a spatial ring. It seemed almost as if it possessed a life and will of its own. With a thought, he summoned the rock spirit and tossed the strange stone toward it. The rock spirit sniffed it for a while. Suddenly, it opened its mouth wide. With a crack, it swallowed the strange stone and began chewing loudly, the sound echoing like a mortal gnawing on bone. The noise made everyone else feel a faint ache in their gums. That could actually be chewed? Ling Han, why did you destroy the strange stone? Qin Lianyue gasped in shock once she recovered from her momentary astonishment. That's right. That is something that could help you become a core disciple, Li Zixian added. Ling Han smiled faintly and said, It's all right. There's plenty more anyway, so we can just take things slowly. The rock spirit would only consume stones capable of increasing its power. Since it enjoyed eating this one, it proved that the stone was beneficial to it. After finishing its meal, the rock spirit leaned against Ling Han's leg and rubbed its head against him like an affectionate little puppy. Yet its strength was far too tremendous. With a single rub, even the earth trembled, an incomparably terrifying sight. Fortunately, Ling Han had cultivated the indestructible Heaven Scroll and possessed astonishing strength himself. Otherwise, if the rock spirit had rubbed against him like that, he would have been sent flying away, his bones shattered and flesh torn apart. Everyone inhaled sharply. This puppet was remarkably intelligent. It even took the initiative to act cute. Moreover, its strength was frighteningly formidable. The rock spirit gazed at Ling Han pitifully, its mouth wide open. If it had been human, it would most likely have been drooling by now. Ling Han knew that this fellow was remembering that brick. Unfortunately, that brick had vanished together with Helion Shunshui. Even he had been unable to locate it. He could not understand why that sea-girl had suddenly left without a word. Here, take this one too. He tossed the other strange stone to the rock spirit as well. The rock spirit caught it and immediately began chewing. Though this stone could not compare with the brick, every little bit helped. Since Ling Han had given it willingly, it would be foolish to refuse. A thought suddenly flashed through Ling Han's mind. Since the first floor of the Black Tower represented the source of Earth, could it perhaps nurture some kind of supreme strange stone to help the rock spirit increase its strength? He immediately communicated with Small Tower and conveyed the question through his divine sense. Yes! Small Tower replied crisply. Ling Han felt as though he were about to go mad and asked, "Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" "You didn't ask," Small Tower answered calmly. Ling Han felt an overwhelming urge to beat someone up. He said, "Fine then, give me a few hundred. No, a few thousand stones." If Small Tower had possessed eyes, it would certainly have rolled them at Ling Han. It snorted and said, "The Black Tower is still in the process of restoration. How could there be so much chaos power to expend? It can only produce one stone every month or so. One stone per month, then. It was still better than nothing." "Then what kind of effects do they have?" Ling Han asked. "After eating 3, that rock man can break through to the spiritual infant tier. After eating 6, it can break through to the deity transformation tier." Small Tower replied calmly. "That's too amazing." Ling Han could not help feeling depressed. He worked so hard in cultivation, yet the rock spirit only needed to eat a few stones for its realm to soar step by step. Such a comparison was enough to drive a man mad with frustration. Since the rock spirit could increase its cultivation so easily, Ling Han decided not to feed any more strange stones to the big fellow. He laughed and said, "Since you're full, then go do your work properly." Ang. The rock spirit beat its chest like a rampaging gorilla. Everyone clicked their tongues again in amazement. This puppet behaved far too much like a human. They continued onward, and before long they discovered white bones buried beneath the ground once more. This time, however, there were quite a few of them. One after another, they crawled out from the earth and lunged toward Ling Han and the others. Everyone unleashed their respective strengths, striving to accumulate merit for themselves. However, the skeleton monsters were simply too powerful. A spiritual infant tier cultivator might still have a chance to exploit an opening and remove the strange stone through indirect tactics. Yet flower blossom tier cultivators did not even have the opportunity to approach, as the terrifying aura alone would send them flying away. During the first trial, it had still been manageable. Though spiritual infant tier cultivators were powerful, the strange winds they faced were even stronger and prevented them from gaining too great an advantage over flower blossom tier cultivators. But here, the superiority of spiritual infant tier strength was displayed fully. After all, the first trial was meant to select young men and women with good talent and firm determination. This trial, however, was designed to choose geniuses among geniuses. Naturally, only the true cream of the crop would be able to emerge from the ranks. The rock spirit charged forward as the vanguard, rushing toward the skeleton monsters. Yet the moment it lunged out, a single punch sent it flying back, shattering it into a heap of rubble. Fortunately, its core remained intact, and it quickly revived. "Aye, you really are unreliable!" Ling Han exclaimed as he shot forward himself. Hu Nu also gave an excited shout and immediately joined him. The two great monsters now attacked side by side. Even the skeleton monsters could only swallow their resentment. Within just a few exchanges, they were shattered under the combined assault, and the strange stones fell instantly to the ground. This object could not be stored inside the Black Tower and could only be carried on one's person. This made Ling Han extremely dissatisfied, as it severely affected his image. Fortunately, the stone was only the size of a fist, otherwise he would truly go mad. After half a day had passed, he already possessed more than 20 stones. Though each strange stone emitted only a faint glow, when 20 of them gathered together, the scene became rather grand. It made him appear like a walking light source, illuminating this gloomy and pitch-dark place. However, this also turned Ling Han into a living target. Soon, someone attempted to make a move against him, hoping to seize the stones. The result, naturally, was that Ling Han looted them instead. Not only were the strange stones they had collected taken away, even their spatial rings were confiscated and presented to Ling Han as gifts. One day later, everyone stopped to rest and began taking out ingredients to cook. Suddenly, a young man dressed in green robes appeared. His expression was arrogant as he coldly declared to the group, "Leave the strange stones behind, and you may all get lost." Translator, Dark Angel. Editor, Henyi. Yuan Chenghe. Li Fengyu and Li Zixian cried out at the same instant, their voices ringing with alarm. Haha, since you know who I am, why don't you hurry and flee? The youth clad in tight garments sneered coldly. Seeing the faint confusion on Ling Han's face, Qing Lianyue stepped forward to explain. Yuan Chenghe, a disciple of the Magnificent Cloud sect, the same sect as Wenren Qian, he had been cultivating in deep seclusion for many years, tempering his abilities in silence. No one had ever heard his name before, yet recently he suddenly emerged from nowhere and defeated quite a number of veterans of the spiritual infant tier. His strength is truly formidable. Some people have even compared him to figures such as Yao Huiyue and the Small Saber King. Ling Han shook his head lightly and said, the Small Saber King and Lang Yatian are already nearing their 40s. As for Yao Huiyue, how old is he? They belong to completely different generations. How can they be placed together for comparison? Still, I doubt this fellow could be stronger than Yao Huiyue. What are you all whispering about? Yuan Cheng. He snapped impatiently. Since they were clearly aware of his great reputation, why were they still standing here instead of running? Li Fengyu spoke in a low voice. I'll go and draw his attention. While I distract him, all of you leave first. Instantly his expression transformed into a radiant smile as he hurried toward Yuan Chenghe. Big Brother Yuan, I am Li Fengyu. I have long admired Big Brother Yuan's mighty reputation. To finally meet you today is truly my great fortune and honor. As expected, Brother Yuan's presence is awe-inspiring, able to radiate golden brilliance simply by standing there. The glow that shines upon a humble little brother like me feels as though another red sun has risen in my life, illuminating the path before me. His endless stream of praise made Ling Han and the others stare at him with awkward expressions. There actually existed someone who could utter such nauseating flattery so smoothly without even blushing. Unlike them, who already felt as if they might vomit. The truth was, Yuan Cheng. He was thoroughly enjoying it. His natural talent was astonishingly high, yet in the past he had spent his days cultivating in strict seclusion, isolated from the world like an ascetic monk. But deep within his heart lay boundless arrogance, and he longed for the acknowledgement, worship, and admiration of others. Now that he had finally emerged and begun to shine brilliantly, the vanity hidden in his heart had naturally swelled greatly. Being flattered so extravagantly by Li Fengyu caused every word of praise to sink straight into his bones. He felt immensely pleased with himself, and naturally he did not find the words nauseating in the slightest. After speaking endlessly, Li Fengyu felt his mouth grow dry. Turning his head around, he saw everyone staring at him with their mouths hanging open. Unable to help himself, he shouted impatiently, I'm already running out of things to say here and was planning to start all over again from the beginning. Why haven't you all run away yet? Ling Han burst into hearty laughter and replied, We stayed to see how far you could continue praising him. Now he had the confidence to even defeat the Small Saber King beneath his sword. Would he really need to run simply because of some rumors about Yuan Chenghe? What a joke. Yuan Chenghe reacted instantly. His expression twisted with fury as he roared, You're quite something, daring to toy with me. Li Fengyu was frightened out of his wits and immediately fled. Although he too was a genius, he was nowhere near Yuan Chenghe's level. Moreover, he was a full cultivation tier lower. How would he dare to fight? Brother Ling, show your strength, he shouted loudly. You hateful fellow, I want to kill. I want to thrash you. Yuan Cheng, he roared. He had originally intended to say he would slaughter the other party, but killing was strictly forbidden in this test. He certainly did not wish to lose his qualification to enter the Restore Heaven Academy because of it. Brother Ling, take care of this fellow, and I'll give you my sister as a wife. Li Fengyu shouted again while running. Brother? Li Zixian scolded with a flushed face. How could he say such a thing? Wasn't that the same as selling her off? Ling Han would not want this ugly woman. Hu Niu rushed forward before Ling Han could even move. Her body turned into a streak of lightning. With a flash, she appeared directly in front of Yuan Chenghe, her tiny fist smashing straight toward him. Yuan Cheng. He was startled. He never imagined that such a small girl could possess such astonishing speed. nor did he expect that she was actually at the same cultivation level as himself. This struck a heavy blow to his pride. He had always been extremely proud of his cultivation. At 27 years old, he had already stepped into the spiritual infant tier, an achievement without precedent. Yet now, a little girl only 7 or 8 years old stood before him, also within the spiritual infant tier. What pride remained then? Clang! He drew out a treasured sword, though he did not unsheath the blade. Instead, he used the scabbard to block Hunyu's incoming punch. However, lightning surged along the scabbard and raced toward his arm. Heng! He snorted softly. Flames roamed across his body, violently clashing against the invading lightning. Martial intent transformed into dazzling rays that intertwined in the air, forming countless shifting shapes. Hunyu leapt lightly into the air, performed a somersault, and retreated. Ling Han nodded faintly. No wonder this man could be compared with Yao Hui Yue. He truly possessed considerable strength, being able to withstand Hunyu's attack head-on without falling into disadvantage. Not many in the spiritual infant tier could accomplish such a feat. Yet Yuan Chenghe himself was even more shocked. He was exceedingly arrogant and had believed that even figures like Yao Hui and the small Saber King were no match for him. He had come to the Restore Heaven Academy intending to begin his legendary journey. Who could have imagined that before he had even entered the academy? A random little girl would appear who could fight him evenly. Although he had not yet used any ultimate techniques, an expert could judge another's ability with a single exchange. This little girl was absolutely not someone to be underestimated. Ugly man, come chase Niu. Hunyu clapped her hands as she provoked him. Yuan Cheng. He snorted and unsheathed his sword. Then he called out coldly, You people actually let a little girl fight for you. Humph, you truly have nerve. Ling Han laughed and replied, You can't even defeat the youngest among us, yet you want to challenge the rest? You should be grateful we didn't bully you and merely sent a little girl to play with you. Those words were extremely fitting. A little girl of 7 or 8 years old fighting could only be described as playing around. Even if one told others, who would believe that this little girl was a spiritual infant tier master? Yuan Cheng. He could not refute Ling Han's words and could only swallow his gloom silently. Who told him to run into such a monster? Who knew? Beat him down. I want to take him in as a lackey, Ling Han said with a grin. Okay, Hunyu answered brightly. Just leave it to Niu. Damn it! Yuan Chenghe erupted with rage the moment he heard this. They actually wanted to subdue him and make him a servant, treating him like some random small fry? Instantly, he unsheathed his sword and charged toward Ling Han. Your opponent is Niu. Hunyu's figure flickered in midair, appearing directly before Yuan Cheng. He, as her small fist, smashed toward his face. Yuan Chenghe had no choice but to tilt his head aside to evade, while simultaneously thrusting his sword forward toward Hunyu. This could very well be a formidable opponent, not inferior to himself. How could he dare allow her to strike freely? If he were hit, he might be beaten so badly that even his own mother would not recognize him. The two instantly engaged in fierce combat, their battle erupting into full force. Yuan Cheng. He was indeed powerful, able to fight Hunyu head-on. At the very least, he showed no sign of losing any time soon. The spectators clicked their tongues in amazement and praised his ability without restraint. After all, earlier, even the skeletal monsters had been defeated by Hunyu through direct frontal assaults. Yet Yuan Chenghe did not know this and only heard their surface remarks, leaving him feeling extremely awkward. Had he truly been reduced to the point where he could only fight evenly against a little girl? Ah! He roared loudly. At last he unleashed his ultimate technique. As his sword style moved, his body seemed to transform into a rapidly spinning sword top, slashing toward Hunyu. More than 20 streaks of sword chi swept forward, terrifying to the extreme.